Hello, 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 world, friends, compadres. I am here again, once again, live to share my heart with you here in the virtual public square and respond to any questions and comments if there come any. So my topic I mentioned was 2 types of therapy. It kind of relates to a lot of other things too, but when we think about it, there's 2 kinds of therapy. There's the therapy that let's get you to adapt. Let's get you to somehow cope in this world. So this insane, dysfunctional world that's driving you insane, let's give you enough tools so that you can fit into that dysfunctional matrix. Let's get you to adapt into this system that's completely nuts so that you don't go nuts. Let's somehow give you coping mechanisms. And then there's the other kind that's more interested in you becoming your authentic self, your soul's expression, your calling, what you were born to come do on this planet. Let's somehow unearth what your trueness is. Let's help heal where you've been fragmented by this society and come into where you can experience wholeness, truth, belonging, without having to sacrifice what's essential to who you are in order to do that. And that will often and usually mean that, okay, we're not trying to get you to fit back in. We might give you tools on how to relate to those things, but they're not tools on how to somehow shape-shift you back into what they want you to be. And this is the crux of our whole societal dilemma also, because our society as a whole doesn't know how to do that, doesn't understand how and why that all happens. I've referenced many times, I love Bill Plotkin's maps. So Nature and the Human Soul book, he talks about the 8 stages, the wheel of the eco-soul-centric human development. And the 3rd stage is young adolescence. And that's where, after learning to crawl and talk, we learn to adapt to the way society is. We learn how to sort of function in the world the way society is built. And stage 4 is late adolescence, and that's really where we go on our hero's journey. That's where we leave our comfort of our home and we do this grand adventure. We find our soul quest. We do the walkabout into the outback and face nature and face the wildness and unknown dangers and find eventually our medicine and who we are and what's essential to us. And we come back with those tools and that medicine. And in some cultures, Aboriginal cultures, send young men on their walkabout, they support that. They support, go on this grand adventure, go on this walkabout. In our culture, we don't. We're like, why are you leaving us? Don't abandon the family. No, you can't go. It's just like a freak out. And there's no understanding, there's no true support that this is what's necessary for human growth and development. And then, of course, the same is true when you come back after the end of the hero's journey. In those cultures that understand, it's a welcoming, it's a homecoming, it's a celebration. And they tell us what you've learned, tell us who you are, bring us your medicine, you're welcome back. Here, it's not the same. We have no understanding of what that journey is about and appreciating the value of it. So if someone comes back, we might be happy and celebrate for a day or 2 because we haven't seen them in a while. But we don't see or recognize or have the capacity to celebrate the journey that they were on and the medicine that they've gained and their gifts to society that have come from that. That we don't have. In our Western cultures in general, and most of the world cultures in general, we've kind of lost that. And because of that, we have a young adolescent society. So we get people getting in older and older bodies, but they're still very young and immature, and that's shown in many of our politicians, for instance, some of which we might not be happy about. They're not, in my opinion, bad people. They're just young adolescents. As such, they have no business running a country. But because we have an entire country of young adolescents, we're totally fine just putting another one of us in office. So just taking a pause to feel where I am, where are we at? What wants to be said? So when we want to spend time going to get help in our journey, to a healer, to a therapist, to a psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever title they're putting their help of fellow human under, it's really important to understand what's their approach. You know, are they really just getting you to adapt so that you can not fall apart in this crazy world? Or is there an understanding of supporting this deeper journey and finding your essential self, and perhaps finding a way where your essential self can relate to the rest of this adolescent world and survive in it, but not making you adapt to it or lose your essence in order to function there. I remember one psychologist, social worker, somebody I went to when I was a late teenager, and his whole goal was to get me to get a job at McDonald's. It's like, oh, it'll just be so good if you just get this job and you can do this. And I'm like, wow, I got a soul mission that's a lot bigger than that, and you just don't get it. It's like, I'm not going to say it's wrong to work a job anywhere if that's what your calling is, but it was like, it was so clear he couldn't. His whole interest was to just get me to somehow make money and pay for my rent so that I don't have to see him anymore. That was his sole interest. And I started with my first psychiatrist when I was, 6 years old, 7 years old or something. And I've seen a lot of them in the last 40 years. Different types of therapists. And in the first 10 years, I saw a lot of traditional therapists, societal, that first type of therapy. Everyone's trying to get you to somehow cope into the box. And that never helped. Finally, in India in 92, I had this, therapies that were just blowing me open and getting me in my bioenergy and getting me to express myself and getting me into my essence. And that was the first and only thing that worked, I mean, many things have worked since, but they're all oriented in this second type of therapy. Now I can kind of spot them, and I think, okay, I'm going to go to people that understand and see the deeper path and the deeper soul journey and how to support that. If there's any comments or questions, feel free to post them. I'll see them if you're on the Field of Awakening page. Remembering to breathe and be present even in the silence. That's what I'm doing here. And that's such a touch point, you know. In our daily lives, having sacred connection with another human, how does that become sacred? You know, how does it really just by happenstance having someone that can somehow relate to what you're talking about and you can have a gossipy conversation? It's not necessarily that what I'm talking about, right? Like how do we really drop into soul-to-soul communion, essence-to-essence contact with another human? For me, it's a lot about stillness. There's a relationship to silence. Doesn't mean there has to be silence like for a long time or something, but a little time can actually be very helpful. And even if there's not, there's a relationship to silence and the void and stillness and emptiness. Like even as I'm talking now, can I feel my inner space? Can I have a relationship to the void? Can I hear the silence between the words and behind the words? Can I sense the backdrop of everything that I'm experiencing? A holographic screen of the universe, you could say. And when I do that, it comes from a different place, it transmits from a different place, it has a different context than me trying to convince you of something or create a facade so that you can't really know who I really am, and so on. Pretenses, defenses, guarding. Can I surrender to the infinite? And relate, hear, and feel the silence even as I'm speaking, or even as I'm listening to words, even as you're hearing me. Can you hear my words like the flow of the river? Just the water flowing through the creek. Not so much mind attachment. Any comments? Any questions? Let me know. Just make sure you're on the Field of Awakening page with this video for me to see it live. I'm feeling somewhat complete with that topic and the 2 types of therapy. How that relates to a lot of things in our world, society, and culture, and our authentic support of our path, which is sometimes hard to come by. Because so few really understand this. Because so many of us are stuck in this adolescence phase, we have an incredible shortage of true elders and true adults even. So we don't have good models who can guide us and mentor us and hold space for what needs to happen. Like, we just don't have it. But if we're aware of it, if I'm aware of it, if you're aware of it, then that awareness can be informative, and we can find we can find the individuals, at least, even if we're not surrounded by them. We can find there are authentic adults and elders around, and we can seek them out and find them. And that's also important for multiple reasons. It's another aspect of our culture is, you can do everything on your own. I'm an individual. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps and take care of your own, and everyone has to take care of themselves, and this is the paradigm that we live in America in particular. It's largely why we don't have universal health care, for instance. There's corporate influence and all these other aspects of it too, but we don't demand it because of this, me, I'm going to take care of myself and my own. Whereas a lot of other countries are like, yeah, we're all in this together, of course. This is a human right. We're all in this together. So getting over, I have to do it on my own, is one of the things that's required to actually develop a relationship with an elder or mentor. We have to acknowledge there's things I don't know. There's things I don't know that others know and that they can help me with. I'm so grateful for all the mentors I've had over the decades. Alright. Facebook Live. Feeling to wrap it up here. I could sit for hours. And yeah, I know that there's a limit to attention spans on Facebook, which I've probably exceeded by far already. So if you're here still, thank you. Let me know if there's been any insight for you. Just have another minute of silence. Yeah, thank you. Also.